You remember your 5th birthday. You remember the color of the cake, the smell of the candles, the exact words your father said before you blew them out. You would swear on anything that it happened just like that, but it probably didn't. Your brain is not a camera. It never was. Here is the strange part. Every time you remember something, you are not replaying a recording. You are rebuilding it from scratch, right there in the moment. And each time you rebuild it, you change it a little, without ever noticing. Why would evolution design a memory system this unreliable? The answer starts in the 1930s with a British psychologist named Frederick Bartlett. He gave people an unfamiliar story to read, something called The War of the Ghosts, a folk tale from a culture very different from their own. Then he asked them to recall it, days later, weeks later, sometimes years later. What he found changed the way scientists understood memory forever. People didn't recall the story accurately. They recalled a version of it that made more sense to them. Strange details got replaced with familiar ones. Confusing parts got smoothed over. Their brains had quietly edited the past to fit what they already believed about the world. Bartlett called this process schema. Your brain doesn't store memories like files in a cabinet. It stores fragments, then reconstructs the whole thing using patterns you already have. A birthday is supposed to have cake, so your brain fills in cake even if you're not entirely sure there was any. This single idea explains something you have felt your entire life but probably never had words for. That nagging discomfort when two people who lived through the same event describe it completely differently. Both of you are certain, both of you are wrong, at least a little. Neither of you is lying. Your memory was never built for accuracy. It was built for speed. Think about what your ancestors actually needed memory for. Not court testimony, not nostalgia, survival. Which berries made you sick? Which watering hole had a predator near it? Which member of the group could not be trusted? None of that required frame-by-frame accuracy. It required the gist, fast and ready to use the next time a similar situation appeared. A brain that reconstructs quickly from patterns beats a brain that plays back a perfect recording too slowly to matter. So your memory system evolved to be efficient, not precise. And that trade-off is still running in your head today, even though the stakes have completely changed. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. In the 1990s, a cognitive psychologist named Elizabeth Loftus ran an experiment that unsettled an entire field. She and her colleagues told adult participants about 4 childhood events, 3 of which were real, confirmed by family members. The 4th was completely fabricated, something like getting lost in a shopping mall as a child and being rescued by a kind stranger. It never happened. And yet a striking number of participants not only accepted the fake memory as real, they elaborated on it. They added sensory details. They described how frightened they'd felt, what the stranger was wearing, how relieved their mother looked when she found them. None of that happened. All of it felt real to them. Loftus went on to show again and again that memory isn't just imperfect, it is suggestible. Leading questions can insert details that were never there. A simple change in wording, asking whether a car was going fast versus asking how fast the car was going, can shift what someone remembers about an accident they witnessed with their own eyes. Loftus's work became foundational in the study of wrongful convictions because eyewitness testimony, the thing juries trust most, turns out to be one of the least reliable forms of evidence available. Why does this matter to you specifically on an ordinary day with no courtroom involved? Because you are doing this to yourself constantly. Every disagreement you've ever had with a family member about what really happened. Every time you've been utterly convinced you locked the door and it turns out you didn't. Every grudge you carry against someone for something they said, filtered and reshaped by years of quiet, invisible editing you never authorized. There's a deeper reason this happens, and it comes from one of the most famous patients in the history of neuroscience. His name was Henry Malazan, known for decades in scientific literature only as HM to protect his privacy. In 1953, surgeons removed a portion of his brain called the hippocampus to treat severe epilepsy. The seizures stopped, but something else stopped too. HM could no longer form new long-term memories. He could hold a conversation, then forget it existed minutes later. He would meet the same researcher, Brenda Milner, dozens of times, and each time it would feel to him like the first. What HM taught neuroscience was staggering in its implications. Memory isn't one thing happening in one place. It's a system built from separate parts that work together. Lose one part, and you don't just lose a little memory. You lose the ability to move new experiences into permanent storage at all. And crucially, his case revealed that even normal memory in unimpaired people depends on this same reconstructive, fragile architecture. You don't have HM's damage, but you're running the same fundamentally patchwork system he was, just with more of the pieces intact. So what does your brain actually do every single time you remember something? It pulls a rough sketch from storage. Then it fills in the blanks using your current mood, your current beliefs, and whatever you've heard or read or imagined since the original event. Psychologist Daniel Schachter, who studied memory distortion extensively, described this tendency as one of the fundamental features of a normal, healthy memory system, not a malfunction. Forgetting, misattributing sources, being swayed by suggestion, these aren't bugs. They're the price you pay for a memory that's fast, flexible, and generally useful, rather than perfectly accurate but slow and rigid. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. If your memories are reconstructed fresh each time, then remembering something over and over doesn't preserve it. It can actually degrade it. Each retrieval is a new construction, and new constructions can pick up new errors, new emotional coloring, new details borrowed from photographs or other people's retellings. The memory you're proudest of, the one you've told at parties for 15 years, may bear only a loose resemblance to what actually happened the first time. You haven't been preserving that memory. You've been slowly rewriting it, one retelling at a time, and mistaking the rewrite for the original. Does this mean you can never trust anything you remember? Not exactly. Gist memory, the broad shape of what happened, tends to hold up reasonably well. It's the fine details, the ones your brain has to invent to fill gaps, that are the least reliable. You probably do remember that your childhood dog was golden and friendly. You're much less certain to accurately remember the exact sentence your mother said the day you brought him home. There's something almost humbling in this. For your entire life, you've treated your memory as a witness to your own existence, a reliable narrator of who you are and what happened to you. But it's closer to a storyteller than a record keeper. It borrows, it edits, it smooths over contradictions, all in service of giving you a coherent sense of your own past, even when the truth was messier and less coherent than the story it tells you. Your ancestors needed a storyteller, not a stenographer. A brain that could quickly extract the useful lesson from an experience and discard the irrelevant noise had a real survival advantage over a brain that tried to preserve everything with perfect fidelity. That trade-off got built into you, cell by cell, across hundreds of thousands of years, long before anyone needed to recall the exact wording of a promise or the precise sequence of an argument. So the next time you find yourself in a heated dispute about what someone really said, or you catch yourself absolutely certain about a detail that turns out to be wrong, remember this: you're not broken, you're not lying, and neither is the person disagreeing with you. You're both running the same ancient reconstructive system built for speed over precision, optimized for a world that no longer exists in the same way, still quietly rewriting your past every time you dare to look back at it. You remember your 5th birthday, the cake, the candles, your father's exact words, but what you're really holding on to isn't a memory. It's the last version of a story your brain has rewritten so many times you've forgotten it was ever anything else.